Hey everyone, welcome back to the Complete NumPy series in 2025. This is the part 3 where we are going to understand the NumPy data type, and understanding this data type is very important for efficient memory uses and performance of our numerical computing in NumPy. So by the end of this video, you will learn what are the different data types in NumPy, how to check the data type of an array, that is a NumPy array or ND array, how to convert data types using astype method, and how to handle some common type conversion errors. So we are in our code editor. Let us first import numpy, which I have already done. Import numpy as np. Next, what we are going to do is we are going to create an integer array. So let us call it as I underscore array, and let us assign it some elements. Okay, let us first say np dot array, and inside this method we will pass our array. So let us pass 1 2 3 4 5. So this is a simple nd array. If we print the value of this, it will be I underscore array. All right, and what will be the data type of this? It will be I array dot dtype. We just need to run the code, and when you run the code you will see this is the value, that is 1 2 3 4 5, and this is the data type int 64. Now for some of you this might be int 32 depending on your system, but mostly I believe it should be int 64. All right, so what it represents is, it says that every element in the nd array is int 64. Okay, now next what we need to do is, let us create a floating array. So f array is equal to np dot array, and let us pass some floating elements. So it can be 1.1, 2.2, 3.3, 4.4, 5.5. These are like float or decimal values, right? Let us print this value and print the data type of this as well. And if you run this code again, this time you will see this is the floating array or float array, and the data type is float 64, right? So this is a very simple concept to understand. You have an array of elements. It can either be float, either be integer, right? So this is the basic thing which numpy has, that the data type has to be same for all the elements, right? We can even create a boolean array. So we can say b array, and let us say np dot array and pass boolean values. So can be true false, right? Let us print the value and also print the data type, and this time you will see the values are true false, and the data type is bool, which is boolean. Now let us create a string array as well, and before we create a string array, let me clear one doubt for you guys. So one doubt which can be created is, what if we pass two different type of elements in our array? So let us say temporary array. Okay, and in this temporary array we just say np dot array, and inside this we just pass some values. Okay, so let us pass 1 and true. So this time we are passing an integer and a boolean, and this time let us print the value and print the data type as well. So the answer is int 64. Now why this is int 64, you need to understand. Okay, let me clear the console, run it again. So the answer is int 64, and the values are 1 and 1 and not 1 and true. If I make it false, it will be 1 and 0, right? So see, 1 and 0 and int 64. Now why this is happening? What it tries is, it try to find a one data type which can actually satisfy all the values. So int 64 can satisfy 1, int 64 can satisfy false, but during this conversion it actually changed the value, right? We are no longer having the value as false, but we are having the value as 0. Okay, what if we introduce one more value, comma 1.1? Now this time we have integer, boolean, and float as well, right? What should happen? Just pause the video, try to guess what should happen, and then play it again. Okay, let us clear the console, run the code again, and this time it is float 64, and the values are 1 dot, which is like 1.0, 0 dot, which is like 0 dot 0, and 1 dot 1. Now how it did is, see, this can be integer, this can be integer, but this cannot be an integer, right? But this can be a float, this can be a float, and this can be a float. So all three can be a floating number or a decimal number. So it converted all those data to float 64, right? So this is how it is automatically converting the data based on which data type can actually satisfy all the elements. Now the next thing is, which is very important, is let us pass a string, okay? And in the string, let us pass the value as 10, okay? Now if we run the code, this time we are getting U32, which is like Unicode, okay? Unicode string. It means it has actually converted all the values to string, okay? This can be a string, this can be a string, this can be a string, and this can also be a string. So even if you pass a string which is actually a number, it will actually convert all the elements to a string. See, we have to see an example of string array. So let us actually create a string array. So call it as s array, or pass it as hello, and pass it as world, and just remove this value. So we have a string array of 3 elements, and this time if we say print s array and print the data type of s array, okay, so it is u9 now, right? So based on the values, it is assigning different unicode patterns to these values. So even if it is u9, u32, or u21, the basics of all this is it is a unicode character, okay? It means all the data is a string or a unicode. Now let us see how we can actually convert one data type to another data type. See, before this we saw it, but it was an automatic conversion based on the actual data. But now if I just explicitly want to convert it, how can we do it? We can make use of astype. Astype is a method in your NP array or ND array. So first thing, let us see, can we convert an integer array to float? Well, we can actually convert integer values to float. So let us try that. So let us say it as integer to float, right? And this can be our I array dot as float. So take your integer array and call a method called as type, and pass the data type to which you want to convert this, okay? And again, just print this and print the data type of this new array. And what we can actually do is we can stop printing other values. So let us comment it down, and let us comment it for integer as well. Save this and only focus on this conversion part, okay? Clear the console and run this again. And this time, see, you had an integer array which is I array, but now this is converted to float array, which is called as I2F. This is a variable name which is referring to this float array. The values are 1 dot 2 dot 3 dot 4 dot 5 dot, which is like 1.0 or 2.0 and so on. The data type is float 64. So we are actually able to convert a floating, or not a floating but an integer array to a floating array, okay? Now can we convert a float array to integer array? Well, we can, okay? We have a float array, right? 1.1, 2.2, and 3.3 and all. Let us try to actually convert it. So let us see this. We can, okay, let us actually comment it down, and let us create another array float to I, and this can be, take your float array, call the method as type, and pass the data type int, print the value and print the data type as well, okay? So this time what are you expecting? Okay, let us see. We are getting the value as 1 2 3 4 5, and the data type is in 64. Well, the data type is fine, but one thing to notice is you will lose some value when you convert a float to an int. You are losing dot 1 dot 2 dot 3, like the element or the number after dot, you will lose it. But I think that's expected, right, when you convert a float to an integer. Next is, can we convert a boolean array to integer? Well, we actually can convert it. So call it as boolean to integer, Take your boolean array, call the method as type and pass the value as int. Let us comment again the previous prints, and this time if you print the value and the data type of p2i, this should actually be integer again. Now, if I run this again, you will find 1010 because the values are true, false. Okay, so true is converting to 1, false is converting to 0. So we can convert Boolean array to integer array, and we can even convert a string array to integer if it is possible. So let us actually create a string array which is possible to convert to an integer array. So let us call it as temp, or actually call it as string array. And if we try to print this value and print the data type, see, we are actually using the string array which we already have created over here. For this it is not possible, you cannot convert these values to int, right? So if you run this, you will actually get an error, right, which is a value error. We will see how to handle these conversions. First, let us actually create another array of string which we can actually convert to integer. So call it as np dot array and pass the values as 0, 1 and 2. Okay, now if you call if you run the code again, you will find it as 0, 1, 2. This is the 0, 1, 2, and the data type is integer. So a string array can also be converted to integer array if the values are actually fine, or are convertible to int. Next is, let us see the case where we are actually having an error in case of conversion. So just the basic of it is use a try and catch block. Okay, so let us actually copy this here, and instead of this array, if we are using the s array which we already have, for which we were getting the error. Okay, so let me show you again what is that s array. So the S array is np.array, which is hello world statlon. These are strings which cannot be converted to integer. So this should produce some error, right? So what you have to do is just make sure you are using some try and catch block or try and accept block in Python and say accept, and the error which it is throwing while conversion is value error. So value error as e, and just print the value of e. Okay, so if we run the program again, this time we should be getting this error, but this is not actually an error, but we have caught the error and printed what was the error instead of throwing it. So I think we actually understood all these four things which we discussed in the start of this video. If you find anything which you didn't understood or you have a doubt on, just make sure you comment it down. If you find this video helpful, just make sure you like this video, and if you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to it as well, and I will see you in the next video.